Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire. Hey, welcome back to Youth Worker on Fire. I'm Doug Edwards, and today we're going to finish episode 2 with Leslie Campione, that interview that we had that you've seen episode 1 of so far. If you haven't seen episode 1, make sure you go back and watch that. If you don't have time for that, please watch episode 2. You're going to love it. Watch this episode. Let's go, though, to FCA, because I want to make sure we covered that. Now, tell me why, and it's controversial. I mean, Fellowship of Christian Athletes is controversial. Any kind of parachurch organization, church and state, all of that. Not as much when you were there, but all that was still, those elements were still there. It was brewing. Tell me the influence that it had in your life, and I know you pushed it to its limits, which is you're a competitor, and you that's why you like sports. I used to see your dad play tennis with a friend of mine, Dennis Helms. And,
so you know.
Yeah, I know.
You should have seen my dad and I play tennis.
Oh, no, I never saw that. You guys are really competitive, I'm sure. And that's a good thing. I mean, because you got to be competitive to get certain things done in life, and certain people are designed for that. So tell me about FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, at your high school, and tell me the things that mushroomed there and how that came about, and what part you played in that.
Well, I mean, I was just one of many kids at Eustis High School that were very committed to meeting every week and getting together with other students who were Christians that wanted to have that type of fellowship and wanted to be there for each other to kind of help us, navigate through this whole high school experience and give each other moral support and have that spiritual element a part of our high school lives.
And it happened before school.
Right, we would meet before school real early in the morning. At the time, I think we met, well, the building was different. We had the library has been torn down where we used to meet, and it was upstairs, and there was a big media room, and that's where we'd meet. And our goal was every week to try to recruit more students to come and reach out to more students, and then we break up into these small groups, and then you'd have that interaction, and you would get to know people that otherwise without FCA you probably wouldn't have been able to get to know them.
Right.
Because you
no
might not
common
have
bond.
Exactly. Yeah. So this was a really great way for us to make those connections with each other. Some of the adults that would come in and speak to us and just kind of tell us about their life experiences, and it was eye-opening for us. It helped us see people, further down the road and think more in terms of, okay, we're in high school now, but what do we want to do with the rest of our lives? And those people were very impactful. Fred Wardans, I remember, he used to come in and speak sometimes.
I'm trying to get Fred on one of these too.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, I don't see Fred very much anymore, but I just remember he was somebody that I remember looking up to and thinking, what a great individual, what a great example. And there were many people that were involved. In fact, we had huddle leaders, and as you progressed each year, you would take on more of a leadership role, and that was another important part of FCA, is that you had to step up and do that. If you were so inclined, there was a spot for you to be a leader of a small group. And you just tried to carry that over into everything that you were doing, because you knew that people were looking at you maybe differently. Oh, well, they're part of FCA, and let's see how they react to that situation. Or even when things went wrong and friends maybe made bad decisions, you were there to say, it's okay, we're still with you. And that's so important sometimes, to have that support group around you to say, okay, I might have messed up this time, but I can get things back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely something that it influenced me, and I know it influenced a lot of my friends, and now we're all in different places, but thanks to Facebook, we all talk, and and we sort of compare notes, and we definitely agree that this was something that had a big impact on our lives. And you mentioned it being controversial. At the time, it wasn't so much, and we were blessed because we had someone like Coach Blake, who like he pushed it to the limits, and you always knew where he stood, and he wasn't embarrassed at all about what his belief system was.
Right.
But he didn't push it on people. He didn't make people feel less of an individual or human being if they didn't come to FCA. I mean, there was no pressure whatsoever in that regard.
And to have that kind of influence without that kind of pressure is huge.
Right.
That's
Yes.
not a small thing, right?
Yeah, and so I think, I mean, definitely it's harder. I watched when my daughter was going through Eustis and she was involved in FCA. You know, it was very different as far as the parameters that were in place,
Yes.
how involved the parents and the teachers could be. I mean, it
Yes.
really had to be student-led. And that definitely, I think, made it more challenging for the kids today than it was for us. I mean, I really admire the kids that are stepping up now and being involved. And they're really having to take the leadership role to make that happen. And
Yeah, they do. They
yeah.
have to work twice, 3, 4 times harder to get maybe 10 to 25% of the result.
Yeah.
Because it's the boundaries are placed tighter.
And I think that what some people may not understand is that, I mean, it's not about, saying we're in this group and we're like judging other people. It's we're in this group and we're here to build each other up and help each other out and be a support system for each other. And as a result of that, you can have a positive impact on other people's lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the goal is you have clubs for all other types of interests that people share in common.
Right,
Why
right.
not combine the two, sports and your spirituality and your faith?
Which was genius for whoever, I don't even remember the guys who started Fellowship
But
Christian
I know
Athletes,
Tom
but
Landry was right there at the very
Tom
beginning.
Landry was a big part. That's right. I do remember that. I'm glad you brought that up. There's some great people. Then, of course, we've had Sammy Smith who was here and for a while in the county. Tim Hancock too. Tim played soccer for UCF. Then ended up full time with Fellowship Christian Athletes for Lake County, and Sammy Smith came after him. Sammy, with FSU and played for the Miami Dolphins and Denver Broncos.
He has a great story to share.
Great story. And now he's going on to Ole Miss.
Right.
And then Matt Matulia went to the Citadel. And we're talking about, I think, was it you talking about the Citadel or something like that?
Well, that's where my basketball coach had
There you go,
graduated
your
from
coach,
Citadel.
right.
Yeah.
And I interviewed Mike, his dad, Mike Matulia today. And
Okay.
Mike had gone there as well as Matt. So Matt now
That is a great family.
Yeah.
Great,
And FCA director is what Matt's going to be doing now too, in place of Sammy.
Excellent. See,
Yeah.
I think he'll be wonderful
He
in
will.
that position, and he understands Lake County, and I think that's a perfect fit. I'm really excited to hear about that.
But now listen, you had, there was the largest group of students, I think, in the history of FCA here, and on most campuses. At 6:30 in the morning, there were times that you were as many as 200 students. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, we could barely fit in the space where we were meeting.
Yeah. Students will find a way, though, won't they?
Definitely. Yeah.
And what do you think it developed? I mean, I know that you have that driven spirit, but not just driven. You have an inviting spirit. I mean, that's what you're doing in the county. That's what you've done in high school. That's what I heard about you before I ever knew you, from Clark Blake and from some others. And I got to hear you speak a few times when I first moved here, and he'd invite you back to speak for FCA. So I got to know you on a few levels. And but tell me about that. How in the world? I mean, did it start off when you were here with that many? Were there already that many going to that group, or how did that develop?
Well, I think every year we just grew a little more. There's no question that...
And Clark gives you a lot of credit for that, by the way.
Well, I mean, I think that I give him a lot of credit.
Well,
I
team spirit, right?
I definitely think that, I mean, he was a catalyst, no question. He was a great leader. There were a group of guys that actually started the FCA with him at Eustis High School, and I have to give a shout out to my brother Greg, because he was in that group, Greg Shamrock, and Mike Kleinmeyer and Katie Carter.
Oh, really?
They were.
I didn't realize Katie was in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, they were the ones. Coach Blake had reached out to them and said, "Hey, there's this new organization out there." He got them to go up to Black Mountain. They came back. They were on fire. They said, "We want to start this at Eustis High School," and they were the ones that started it. So Greg, they were 4 years ahead of me. So I would have been in, I guess, the 8th grade. They would have been graduating. And then once we got here in the 9th grade, I think things really started taking off.
Yeah.
And, he brought good speakers in. We just had a lot of great camaraderie. And it's hard to say exactly what it was that made that happen. But I think back to some of the kids that were in my class and then subsequent classes. Mm-hmm. Every year it was like almost like competition. Let's outdo the year before.
Yeah.
And so there was a real push to make that happen. And so many names are like going through my head right now as I think about, some of the kids that were in my group. And then the years later on, Kristen Whitaker comes to mind as somebody. She was a go-getter.
Yeah,
and, there were just a lot of.
There was a synergy that happened. There was just there was the right people, the right time. It was a building thing, and
Jeff Boschlicker, he was a couple years ahead of us, and he was real involved. And I don't know if you know Jeff, but
no, I don't.
He's.
I've heard of that. In fact, his kids though.
Right.
His kids went to school. Tennis players.
They were tennis players.
Yeah.
He had, I think he had twins.
Yes.
And they might have been the tennis players.
Yes, they're the ones I knew.
Okay.
That's why I knew the name. Right.
Yeah. So, it was, like you said, it was a synergy, and it was definitely a team effort. And I really was just the beneficiary of the fact that there were so many other good people. They were good people that were making these things happen.
Well, and those people, though, you set a platform up for you because you just bring energy. You do. I mean, that's just who you are. I know that. Everybody knows you pretty well, knows you bring energy. And those guys set a platform, and that's what we're doing with some of this here. And what I remember was from what Coach Blake was telling me, that he was the reluctant FCA director, that there was one kid, is that right? I believe it was one kid before him. He said, Coach, you got to go to Black Mountain. And so, for those of you guys that are going, I don't know if I want to do this, and that's too much, and Leslie's the ultimate of, there's always too much to do, but there's always time for the right thing. Would you say that's a pretty good summary of you?
Definitely. And if you get a chance to do one of these FCA camps, to go to Black Mountain, to go to Stetson.
Still happening.
I mean, there are a lot of different opportunities out there.
Right.
They're definitely life-changing. You're coming in contact with kids from all over the place, whether it's the state of Florida or the United States. And you see people that are kind of going through similar things as you are, and there's that competition element to it because you realize that other people are out there making things happen. And you want to be part of that. You want to do that back in your own community. You want to take what you learn at those camps, bring it back home and apply it. So,
that's right.
Those are great opportunities. The camp, I can't say enough about the impact I think that had, because that was one thing we were doing. We were going to Black Mountain every summer. Yes.
Right.
The Methodist Church locally, they would provide the bus, and
I remember stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
The bus breaking down
yes.
along the way and those kind of things. But you learn. Those are all good learning experiences.
Oh yeah. They are good learning experiences. Well, listen, this has been invaluable. I think probably we talked about today. Some of our communicators like yourself or our guests, we'll break it down to 2 or 3 spots because there's 2 or 3 different podcast that basically we just developed, you and I here, that will affect different people in different ways, and let's see if we can make this one a 3-parter.
Good. So well, I'm always welcome to come back and talk about things happening in Lake County and things we're trying to get done.
Well, we'll definitely do that again.
Yeah, there's a big issue on my heart right now, and that is a group over in Leesburg that was started called Forward Paths. And Denise Burry is on that board, and it was started to assist kids that age out of foster care. Right now, this year, it looks like we'll have about 30 kids in Lake County that will be in high school. They'll be in their senior year, and they literally will turn 18, and where they're going to live becomes a big question mark.
Yes, yeah.
And so there's this period of time between that age 18 to 23 that this group is trying to step up to help with 2 components: the housing, because that's the big obstacle right there, is because people won't rent.
Where do you put them?
They might be able to get a job, but no one wants to rent to them because they don't have someone to put up a security deposit or to guarantee, to sign a guarantee or what have you. And so it's really a difficult thing. And so what we're trying to do is bridge that transition so they can have their job, they can go to Lake Sumter, they can go to Lake Tech, they can continue their education, but we're trying to assist with the housing component of that. And so that's something I definitely would like to try to, get more information out to the public about, because I think the more people know about this, the more they'll want to step up and help. And I'm just so thankful for Forward Pass and the individuals who have already stepped up to help with the life coaching part of this, and just, because
Once again, youth workers, volunteers,
right,
people that are putting their life on the line for other people.
when
for
you're
this
in a
age group.
traditional family,
And people don't really want to deal with this age group.
Right.
They don't want to deal with the college age. I found that with working with college, that even our local churches sometimes, well, we're not a college community. Well, no, they're everywhere, even if they're not going to college.
yeah.
We got this 18 to 25-year-old group that is like lost in the scheme of things out here.
And if you
they're there.
And if you have a traditional family, or any family at all that you can fall back onto, that's what typically happens. Whether it's borrowing a car to get to work, or just having a place
Right.
to sleep so you can have a job and you can get ready and you can go to work or go to an interview.
So you can have sleep.
Yes, but these kids literally, the projections are probably low, but they're saying we probably have 180 kids in that age group who are literally homeless in Lake County.
Oh, I think that's low.
Yeah.
I think it's low. Yeah.
And I mean, they're living out of, cars in the woods, wherever. I mean, it's just horrible to think about the fact that this is going on, and it's a need that's out there, hasn't been addressed. We can take care of. It's not insurmountable. We can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited that people are coming together and pulling together to figure out how we're going to address this particular need and help these kids out.
We'll come up with a date that
Okay.
we can come back and do this, because I think that's a one we should focus a lot more time on and get it out there, because a lot of times we just get frustrated. Okay, well, I can't do anything. I don't know what to do.
Right. It's a problem, but you just don't know where you can plug in to try to help out.
That's right.
Yeah, and I know most of us feel like, look, this whole idea of a handout versus a hand up. I mean, this is all about a hand up. It's about helping people make that transition.
Yeah.
And
There's genius level people in this group, and there's people that are great hearts, whether you want to. All of us have an area of genius, by the way. It doesn't matter if you're academically showing it or not. I think the school system deals with 3 areas, and we've found that there's 7 areas at least of genius. So everybody has an area of genius in their life, and here we are with this huge problem-solving group that we're letting slide through our fingers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. All right. Thanks for joining us today on Youth Worker on Fire. Remember to catch us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and TuneIn. You can also catch us on our website at youthworkeronfire.com. I'm Doug Edwards, and see you next time on Youth Worker on Fire.